We heat our homes in winter and cool them in summer. We can eat strawberries in December and drink iced coffee in January. Many of us also keep almost the same work schedule all year. So here is the simple question. Does the human body really live outside the seasons? The Huangdi Neijing says no. It does not ask us to copy nature in a rigid way. It asks us to notice change and to know when to open, when to grow, when to gather, and when to conserve. I'm Dr. Yuanlin Piao. I practice Chinese and integrative medicine for more than 20 years at Peking Union Medical College Hospital in Beijing. And I have also taught Chinese medicine in China and the United States. In episode 1, we studied several basic ideas from the first chapter of the Suwen. Follow yin and yang, eat and drink with moderation, keep a regular daily life, and do not exhaust yourself through reckless activity. But a healthy routine is not always exactly the same. The length of daylight changes, temperature changes, plants, animals, work, mood, and sleep may change too. Chapter 2 asks how human life should respond to those changes. By the end of this episode, I want you to remember 4 simple movements. Spring brings emergence. Summer brings development. Autumn brings gathering. And winter brings storage. Then we will see how these 4 movements lead to one of the most important ideas in Chinese medicine. Zhi Wei Bing, acting before illness becomes established. The chapter is called 四气调神大论. 四气, the 4 qi, does not mean 4 kinds of invisible material. Here, it refers to the different movement of each season. Spring opens. Summer develops. Autumn gathers. Winter stores. 调神 is often translated as regulating the spirit. That English phrase can sound religious or mysterious. In this chapter, the meaning is practical. It includes our attention, intention, emotional direction, behavior, and the way we use our activity. The text also uses the word 智. Here, 智 is not simply willpower. It is the direction of the mind, what we move toward, what we hold back, and how we respond to the world around us. This gives us an important question. Why does a medical classic talk about intention and conduct as much as sleep and physical activity? Keep that question in mind. The final part of the chapter gives the answer. For now, remember the basic pattern. Spring, emerge. Summer, develop. Autumn, gather. Winter, conserve. The chapter begins with spring. 春3月，此谓发陈. The 3 months of spring are called 发陈, a time of opening and unfolding. The passage then gives us a picture of spring living. Rise early, take a long, easy walk, loosen the hair and relax the body. Allow the intention to come to life. And in our conduct, support life rather than suppress it. Give rather than take away. 发成 is difficult to express with one English word. It suggests opening, unfolding, or bringing forward what had been held through winter. It does not mean a modern spring detox. That idea is not in this passage. The physical advice is gentle. Rise early, walk, and loosen the body. But the passage quickly moves beyond exercise. It asks us to let the intention come to life. It also says to give rather than take, and to support life rather than cut it down. This is important. Spring is not only a change in temperature, it is a model of beginning. The text asks us to create conditions in which life can begin without being forced. In teaching, I sometimes ask students to think about the difference between growth and pressure. Growth needs direction, but it also needs room. If we try to force every new plan at once, we may exhaust the very beginning we are trying to support. So the spring message is simple. Allow appropriate emergence. It is not an order to become endlessly productive. And it does not mean that everyone should sleep less. A person's age, health, work, climate, and actual need for sleep still matter. In summer, the movement changes from beginning to full development. 夏三月，此谓繁秀。The 3 months of summer are called 繁秀, a time of flourishing and full development. The passage presents summer as life moving fully outward. Heaven and earth interact, and living things flower and bear fruit. It tells us not to reject the sun, to let the intention remain free of pent-up anger, and to allow qi to move outward, as if what we love is out in the world. Without anger does not mean that a healthy person never becomes angry. Emotions are normal. The passage is warning against a fixed state that blocks open movement. Summer has an outward quality. Interest, activity, contact, and expression can all increase. 使气得泄 is also easy to oversimplify. It does not mean that every person must sweat heavily. It points to appropriate opening and outward movement. The word qi changes meaning with context. It should not be reduced to energy. Modern life can turn summer activity into overactivity. Travel, social events, long days, outdoor work, and too little rest. The text supports expression, but it does not praise exhaustion. The summer message is allow healthy development. Let life show itself, but do not spend more than you can restore. Autumn turns in another direction. 秋三月，此谓荣平. The 3 months of autumn are called 荣平, a time of completion, settling, and balance. Now the direction changes. The passage advises us to go to bed earlier, rise early, that the intention become peaceful, and gather Shen and Qi. In simple terms, do not keep sending the mind outward in every direction. 收敛神气 does not mean becoming emotionally closed. It means collecting attention that has been spread in many directions. Think of finishing work, reviewing what has happened, setting limits, and letting some activities come to an end. This can be difficult in a culture that always asks for more. Another goal, another project, another message, another hour online. But a life that only expands cannot remain organized. Something must also gather and complete. Autumn is sometimes reduced to the slogan that it is a sad season connected with the long. That is too simple. The chapter does mention the lung, but it does not say that every person must feel sad, or that every autumn symptom is a lung disease. The autumn message is gather what has been scattered. Gathering is not withdrawal from life. It is how we keep what development has produced. Winter is the phase of 闭藏, closing and storing. 冬三月,此谓闭藏. The 3 months of winter are called 闭藏. Water freezes and the ground cracks. The passage says not to disturb young needlessly. It advises earlier sleep, rising later with daylight, keeping the intention inward, avoiding unnecessary cold, seeking warmth, and limiting excessive outward loss. This passage reflects a world shaped by natural light and cold. Most of us now live with electric lights and indoor heating. Some people work nights. Some live near the equator, where seasons are very different. So we should not turn the words into a rigid command that everyone must stay in bed until sunrise. The larger idea is conservation. Winter is not the time to prove that we can live at full speed all year. But conservation is not complete inactivity either. Appropriate movement, daylight, walk, and social contact remain important. The balance depends on the person and the environment. The winter message is protect what needs to be stored. Conserve, but do not disappear. These are not 4 separate lists of wellness tips. They describe one connected cycle. Without winter storage, spring emergence has less support. Without spring emergence, summer has little to develop. Without summer development, autumn has little to gather. Without autumn gathering, winter has little to store. After each seasonal section, the text warns that going against one phase reduces what can support the next. This is the meaning behind the phrase such as 奉长则少. There is less to support development, or 奉收则少. There is less to support gathering. We should not read this as a simple threat. One late night in spring does not automatically cause a specific disease in summer. The text is describing a pattern. Repeatedly missing the needs of one phase can weaken our ability to move into the next phase well. We see this in ordinary life. If we never finish, we cannot truly rest. If we never rest, the next beginning is weak. If we begin everything but develop nothing, there will be little to complete. Timing gives each activity its proper place. The chapter now gives one of its best-known lines. The yin and yang of the 4 seasons are the root of all things. Therefore, the sage nourishes yang in spring and summer, and nourishes yin in autumn and winter, in order to follow the root. This sentence has been explained in different ways by different physicians and commentators. We should not turn it into a quick rule that everyone needs warming herbs in spring and summer, or yin-tonifying herbs in autumn and winter. Within this chapter, I read it through the pattern we have just studied. In spring and summer, do not suppress appropriate emergence and development. In autumn and winter, do not recklessly use up what should gather and store. This is a reading based on the structure of the chapter. It is not the only possible interpretation, and it is not a prescription for seasonal self-medication. The phrase, "follow the root," points us back to the whole cycle. A branch cannot remain healthy if its root is repeatedly damaged. In the same way, one phase of life cannot be separated from the phase that prepares it. Now the chapter reaches its central statement. Yin and yang and the 4 seasons are the ending and beginning of all things, and the root of life and death. Going against them gives rise to harm. Following them helps prevent troublesome illness from arising. This is called attaining the way. 终始 means ending and beginning. The order matters. Every ending creates the conditions for another beginning. Winter is not simply the death of activity. It is also preparation. Autumn is not simply loss. It is the work of gathering. Spring is not creation from nothing. It depends on what has been preserved. The text is no longer talking only about bedtime or walking in a courtyard. It is asking whether we can recognize the direction of change. When is it time to begin? When is it time to develop? When is it time to gather? When is it time to stop spending and protect what remains? The statement about life, death, and illness is written in the strong language of classical text. It should not be turned into guarantee that following seasonal advice prevents every illness. Genetics, infection, injury, social conditions, age, and many other factors matter. The point here is that timing and adaptation are part of health. 道者，圣人行之，愚者配之。One possible translation is, the sages put the way into practice. The foolish merely wear it as an ornament. The word pay is difficult, and translations differ. But the practical message is clear. Knowing a principle is not the same as living by it. As a physician, I often meet people who already know that they need more rest, regular meals, or a more sustainable rhythm. more information is not always the missing part. The difficult step is bringing knowledge into daily life. We can also use health advice as decoration. We read it, repeat it, and agree with it, but do not change anything. The text values practice over display. 从阴阳则生，逆之则死. Following yin and yang supports life. Opposing them leads toward decline. Following them brings order. Opposing them brings disorder. Reversing what should be followed creates obstruction within. The literal line says that following yin and yang leads to life, and going against leads to death. This is a statement of the larger principle, not a claim that one seasonal mistake directly causes death. 治 here means order, good regulation, or a state that is well governed. 乱 means disorder. The chapter uses language that could describe both a person and a state. 内阁 suggests resistance or blockage within. It should not be matched to one modern diagnosis. The simple idea is this. When the parts of life no longer respond to timing, coordination is lost. It leads to the famous conclusion. 是故圣人不治已病，治未病. Therefore, the sage does not wait for illness to become established, but attends to what has not yet become illness. The sage does not wait for the disorder to erupt, but acts before disorder has formed. To give medicine only after disease is fully established, or to restore order only after disorder has already appeared, is like beginning to dig a well when one is already very thirsty, or beginning to make a weapon after the fighting has started. Is that not too late? 治未病 is often translated as preventive medicine. There's some overlap, but the classical idea is broader than a modern label. First, preserved conditions that support healthy regulation. Second, notice an early change before it becomes a fixed pattern. Third, act before the problem becomes severe or difficult to reverse. The well is a perfect image. Water is needed before thirst becomes urgent. Once the crisis has begun, our choices become fewer and the work becomes harder. This does not mean that medicine is useless after disease appears. The Huangdi Neijing contains many discussions of treatments. The point is about timing. Do not make late treatment your only health strategy. Now we can understand why this medical chapter talks so much about intention and conduct. Disease does not begin only at the moment a diagnosis is named. The way we rest, work, respond, and change direction can help preserve order or slowly weaken it. The text wants us to notice the process earlier. You do not need a complicated seasonal program. Begin with the questions. What change is already happening in my environment and daily life? Am I supporting that change, resisting it, or pushing it too far? What is one small adjustment I can make before strain becomes a larger problem? These questions are for observation, not self-diagnosis. Medical symptoms still deserve proper evaluation. Spring teaches emergence. Summer teaches development. Autumn teaches gathering. Winter teaches storage. Together, the seasons teach timing. And timing leads to the final principle of this chapter. Do not wait until disorder is fully established. Protect the condition of health. Notice change early and act while there is still room to respond. Which is more difficult for you, beginning at the right time, stopping at the right time, or noticing a problem before it becomes serious? Please share your answer in the comments. If you would like to understand Chinese medicine beyond quick seasonal tips and explore the deeper logic of the Huangdi Neijing, please subscribe to the channel. In the next episode, we will continue with Suwen Chapter 3, 生气通天论, and examine how human life communicates with the larger natural world. Thank you for watching. See you next time.